The United Nations estimates that over 1 billion people around the world live in multi-dimensional poverty. Economist Sifiso Skenjana says the large corporates must lead the fight against the scourge. He says the private sector must prioritize education, skills development and capacity building for their staff. Skenjana also says companies should undertake own poverty assessments to ensure the poorest are supported out of poverty. He joins us now to discuss his views. First, we could start by explaining multi-dimensional poverty, what exactly we mean by that.
Historically, we've looked at poverty in an income-based assessment, and so we've looked at how much do people live on or unable to live on as a measure of the poverty thresholds that they live. And over the years, then there's been a lot of literature and research that says that actually poverty is multidimensional. And there are a number of things that impact the incidence of poverty. So it's access to schooling, it's access to resources, it's education, it's health, it's nutrition, as well as wages. And so there are all these things that now sit in a spectrum that we can no longer talk about poverty just on an income based only. And the whole point is that when we're trying to solve for the poverty issue, therefore then we can't talk money alone. We need to talk all the elements that are factors that drive the incidence of poverty.
Now, you are arguing that corporates can actually lead the fight against this scourge. But then what do you say to someone who says, but corporates are profit-driven. They have to make money for their shareholders and owners. But also they do pay taxes. And those taxes is what is supposed to then do the things that you are asking them to do.
So the number of things that we see that actually make this very much in the interest of corporate. And so we see, for example, that if you look at healthcare, for example, and its impact on absenteeism, the research shows that absenteeism costs the economy up to 19 billion rand per annum. And there's something they call presenteeism, which is people come to work sick, and that costs the economy more than 4 times, so that's close to 80 billion. And so corporates coming to the party around eradication of poverty on the first instance, I think, is very much in the interest of the profit imperatives, and so that's the first thing. The second thing is that corporates have to also do the right thing in terms of playing the role in what it means to be a corporate citizen in a South African context. And what that means is that already we see the advent of inequality, wage inequality, both on gender and by race, that we see in corporate. And they're not playing their part in just doing the basics in terms of getting wage parity. And we're saying that they have a responsibility to also then participate in terms of what it really means to be a citizen in the country.
I mean, wage disparities, of course, has been a big issue, especially for labor. I mean, people pointed that the huge amounts of money that CEOs earn versus what the lowest earning workers in particular get to take home.
I mean, PwC has got an executive director's report assessment there that, for example, I think in ShopRite, the CEO's salary was up to 652 times the lowest earner in the business, right? And it absolutely makes no sense to see numbers like that. Yet, when you're looking at what's happened in terms of poverty in the country, it's been increasing by 11% since 2011. And, there's something they call the working poor, and it means that people are employed, but they are unable to meet just the basic things to be able to live, and this is exactly the thing that we're saying, that, we know closer to Mandela Day, corporates like to go paint somewhere and, and do all these colorful things. But for me, this is how corporate could really take us, an important stand to both lead, I think, policy around the eradication of poverty, because imagine in a corporate environment, the poorest people in that organization now get food parcels on a monthly basis, in addition to their salary. Imagine those people have a nurse that comes into the office to ensure that they don't get, flu and they get treated preventative as well as, administrative. And so there are a number of things that corporates really should be doing, I think, to lead also the policymakers and give them, I think, anecdotes and pilots to show how this thing can actually work.
Well, it's okay for someone like you to write an opinion piece once in a while, but who then sort of keeps this on the agenda of corporates, that these are the things you shouldn't forget, you should actually be doing?
So, so on the one hand, we already see things like the CSI requirements for corporate, I think 1% of their net profits, etc. That is legislated in one way or another. But we also see things like the CEO, sleep out and all of those things. And, for me, it would be really interesting how, poverty eradication could be top of the agenda in those platforms, and saying, we've got a CEO sleep out. In mining, health is a big issue. So we're going to prioritize, health in mining. In financial services, something else is an issue. And maybe then when these corporate heads also come together, and then it might make the job a little bit easier as well, because you get the benefit of scale in some of these things. And so while there's impetus for government to also, drive and incentivize and give a corporate a bit of a nudge, I think it's also upon corporate to take it upon themselves to ensure that they participate fairly in the economy.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. Thanks very much for your time.